evening, and it's been a while since we've been here. It's been a while since we've been in the Wagon Wheel. It's been a while since we've kind of just wrapped together. So tonight, it's I thought I'd come back down and say hello, and we would just kind of have a chat. We haven't done this in a while. I saw that last night when I was scrolling through some of the stuff online that people had questions about all kinds of other stuff other than just simply, Packer stuff and Brewers stuff and Buck stuff. So I thought, you know what, it's about time. We haven't done one of these in a while. So tonight I thought, let's do one. We haven't done it in a while, so let's get to it. And so this is the way we can do it. By the way, Steve, or Star Wars Gazer, listening from Omaha, Nebraska. Nice. I love it when we get people from all around. Reno. Mary's in Reno and doing a little gambling. So we got people from all over, which is fantastic. But we haven't done one of these in a while. And I thought, we just haven't chatted. And this is not over the air. This is on all of our platforms. So I thought, let's just, and even if it's non-sports related, we can just bullshit, right? And just kind of keep it real and ask questions. And if I can give you a good answer and be entertaining, we'll do it. So Jeffrey, how you doing? Michael, how you doing? Welcome into the Wagon Wheel. And this is where, like when we do, Ron, how you doing? When we do our parties and our Christmas parties and all that kind of stuff, this is where it all takes place. Behind me is where the music sets up. I'm sitting at the bar and just kind of hanging out tonight. So I thought, let's do a few questions. I did get a few. So if you want to, you can do it one of two ways. You can hit me up on the text line, and the text line's open. So you can text me 608-321-1670 and text a question. You can email me at thebillmichaels, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. Those are the two ways. Or if you're watching over on the live stream, you can just ask a question. And if I get to it in time, then we'll kind of go there and do it that way. So happy hour has not passed. Happy hour is here. I was going to do a bourbon tonight, but you know what I did? Like a dumbass, I left out my apple cider. I mean, apple cider you can't leave out of the refrigerator. Apple juice you can, but apple cider you can't. And I got down here and it was full of fungus and mold and everything else. So I'm like, shit. I can't do that. So one of our good sponsors is Point Brewing in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. So I grabbed some cider boys. So I got cider boys. I got a Cohiba. So let's fire off a few questions and just kind of see where the road takes us, so to speak. So Ken and Sheboygan. First of all, Ken, thanks for paying attention to us. Ken wanted to know what it was like working with Irv Favre. And for those that didn't know, back in the day when I worked for the Packers Radio Network, myself, Brian Noble, we worked with Brett's dad, Irv. He joined us on the program. And he started out where he would just stop by and say hello. And then it got to the point where he was as big a star in a lot of different realms as some of the players were. And we loved having him. We really did. We loved having Irv with us. He was fun, and Irv would say stuff that nobody else could say. So it's not that we goaded him into it. He knew what he was doing, but he would ask us or tell us, hey, if you want to say this, if you want to say that, let's talk about this. Isaias from St. Pete, Florida. So there you go. Good stuff. Thanks for Dawn. Hello. Joey. Hello. But working with Irv was fun because Irv was not a broadcaster. Irv was just a guy that loved watching his son play football, and Irv was a coach. That was what his passion was. And so Irv had a different perspective on things. And it was great because, if you would criticize Brett, people would go nuts. How dare you criticize the greatest quarterback of all time? And he brought the title back to Titletown and all that kind of stuff. But Irv, you'd say to Irv, hey, man, what an incredible game. Brett had 3 touchdowns, 290 yards. And Irv would say, but God damn it, he threw that one pick and he should have thrown it to Freeman because Freeman was wide open. Instead, he tried to force it into Driver. And did you see that? He had a bracket cover. I mean, Irv knew his stuff. And so he was the guy that we could lead down that path. And he would say, these are the things that are wrong. These are the things that weren't perfect. And he thought about life as a coach. So he would then look at it through like game film, like what do we have to correct before the next game? But he was just fun. It was funny when we used to do the show up at Curly's, up in the atrium at Lambeau Field. People would sit up in front and they'd ask for autographs and all that kind of stuff, and myself and Brian and Irv. But Irv would, by far, he'd have a line of people. And Irv would get women that would come up and have him sign underwear. And I think part of it was they wanted to embarrass him, to see if he would be embarrassed, And there was one time this woman walked up and she was well endowed. She had a big cheese bra on that barely covered her. And she said, Irv, would you sign my cheese bra? And she kind of lifted up the cheese bra to put it on the table, completely exposing herself. And he's signing it. And he says, you want me to sign that too? And so she, kind of reached up and he signed her boob too, which was pretty funny. But people loved Irv, man. It was great working with Irv. He was honest. He was fun. He would make us laugh. But he was also no nonsense. He was the man's man. I mean, he talked about, guys, he was the guy that always taught us that the score and looks in the NFL didn't matter as long as you got the win. But he would also point out all the problems and things that could then hurt you down the road as you got towards the postseason. But he loved Brett as a dad, but he was as hard on Brett as anybody. I mean, as hard on Brett as anybody. So it was a lot of fun working with him. We had a great time though. We had a great time. The best Irv story and I tell it all the time is Irv loved his Budweiser. He loved it. So Irv would have, he'd have a couple. It was a bad game. He'd have more than a couple, but we'd always say, hey, Irv, you can't, we don't want you coming down to do the post-game show with a buzz. So Irv said, okay, look, as long as I get, like during the show, my Budweiser, I was good. So we would all keep coffee cups up on the desks with us. And Irv got as usual. He'd always say, I want my coffee, and his coffee was, the metaphor for Budweiser. And Brian would drink a Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, and I'd always drink like a Sprite. And we had a girl, her name was Paula. She was great. Paula used to take care of us, and she was like our permanent server at Curly's. Well, it got to the end of the season, and there was Paula was from Mexico, and Paula was going back to Mexico for the holiday for Christmas to see her family. So we had another girl that was going to come up, and Paula walked her through the week before and said, this is what they do. This is who they are. This is how they get what they get. And you just kind of keep checking on their people and their guests and the whole thing. So it was always, I got my Sprite, Brian got his Diet Coke, and Irv got his quote coffee. And which was, as we all know, a mug of Budweiser. And so we get ready for the show. And when you're getting ready to do the post-game show at the time, we would have an engineer off to, my, you're looking at me, the left, but it was my right side. And then Brian was here and Irv was next to me over here on these 3 tables we had up top. And the engineer would talk to me in my ear. And I knew when I heard Wayne Larrabee and he was doing all the stats and statistics and, the yardage and the totals and everything, I knew I had about a minute, right? So the girl, and I don't remember what the girl's name was. God love her. She was very, very nice. But she came up and she goes, Mr. Michaels, here's your Sprite. And Mr. Noble, here's your Diet Coke. And Mr. Favre, here's your coffee. And he's got his mug. And Irv is, joking around with people and high-fiving and signing autographs. And so, I hear Wayne Larrivee saying, that'll do it. We're going to get to the post-game show, from whatever they were calling it at the time. I think it was like the Acuity Network or whatever it was. So anyway, the engineer's counting in my ear. And when I hear the music, da-da-da, 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 and I know I've got like 20 seconds. So in my ear, I hear the engineer go, 20 seconds, Bill. Okay, now I'm getting ready for my opening statement, right? And just as it goes 3, 2, and then you don't say after 1 because then the mics go open, and he points at me. And just as I get ready to say, good evening from Lambeau Field, the Packers, I think the Packers won. The Packers get a win today, whatever. Just before I get ready to say that, you hear, who the F, and I think I can say it here, but who the fuck put coffee in my coffee? And then it goes deadly silent because it went out over the air. And Irv, so at this point, Brian Noble is hysterical, right? He's cracking up. And I'm like stunned, but I'm ready to bust out laughing because I'm trying to keep the composure and keep the show together. And Irv doubles down. He looks over and he goes, well, shit, was that on the air? You could just hear the whole place cracking up. That's my best Irv Favre story because that was Irv. And God love him, man. He was so much fun to be around. He was such a great guy. So thank you for that question. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Got one here. This is Ben in Rhinelander. He said, before you did sports talk, I know you did other forms of radio. What was the most fun and what was the worst? God, the most fun. I did rock radio for a while. I did news talk in the morning. I did traffic reports. I've done country radio. So, I did all different forms. What was the most fun? I think doing sports talk's always been the most fun. I had a great time. Look, when I worked for WBZX, the Blitz up in Columbus, Ohio, and I got a chance to, travel with bands and do interviews with bands and stuff, that was really cool. When you're young and you're traveling with rock bands and musicians, that's really cool. But my passion was always in sports. But before I did that, a country radio station in Cincinnati that I worked at, they decided to be a little controversial and they put on a sex talk show from 10 to midnight. And I was the local, now it was syndicated out of Atlanta, but I was kind of the local producer of that for phone calls. And so that was, I wasn't giving advice, God knows that, but that was pretty funny. For some of the people that would call with the problems they would have and the questions they would have. And it was relationship stuff and it was all kinds of craziness. It was, it was pretty wild. Some of the people that would call up with either problems or issues or health issues or, how they couldn't get their girlfriend to do certain things. Or, it was wild. It was just a lot of fun. So, but yeah, I've done quite. And in this business, you kind of pay your dues. So in today's day and age, it's a little different. But back then, you had to go through whatever was available, but keep your eye on the prize the whole time. But you had to hone your skill. You had to learn every aspect of the business, and that's what I tried to do. So I think doing producing for a sex talk show kind of grounded me because it taught me that everybody's got issues and everybody's a mess. And you don't have to feel like you're personally just the only mess out there. And hearing a lot of that, I felt pretty good about myself after a while, to be honest with you. So it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. What else do we got? Let's see here. Cheryl in Ashwaubenon says, thank God you're on for the 4 full hours. With Cheryl, we're glad we're on full time in Green Bay now as well. So absolutely. She says, what coach had the most impact on your life? I'd go back to a guy when I was a kid named Jim Leon. Jim Leon did. Jim was a guy that drove me. I think he got the most out of me. He could talk to me in a way that You didn't want to disappoint him. Um, he was smart, and he knew how to motivate and keep you engaged. And that and a lot of that the stuff that he gave me when I was a kid, back when I was playing basketball and football and baseball, and a guy named Wayne Combs. Wayne Combs was the other one, my baseball coach, because Wayne had a way of talking to you too. Wayne didn't care. He would come out and talk to you in a way like he was talking to, you know, adults, and he had a way of motivating you with a smile. But both of those guys, probably that's who I would attribute, like, athletically, and some of my life lessons, kind of success. I mean, my biggest coach, my biggest fan was always my dad and my mom. My dad was a sergeant in the Army. He was a gunnery sergeant, so he taught people how to fire cannons and all that kind of stuff over in Germany. But my dad was hard. My dad was very hard, very detail oriented, attention to detail. You keep striving to be successful. You don't quit, all of that. But the two coaches that taught me the most, Jim Leon is the first guy that comes to mind, and then Wayne Combs as I got a little bit older. Those two guys were probably the most influential. And Jim went on pretty successful high school career as a high school coach. And he still, I mean, I still see his stuff on Facebook and everything. Wayne has since passed, but Jim was probably, and Jim I had the most success with too, as a young guy growing up. I mean, we had, over a decade worth of success and championships and all that kind of stuff. So I'd probably say that as far as people that had an influence on me. On the text line, this is from Butler, and Butler says, where you get your energy and how old actually are you? Well, I'm 58 years old. And where do I get my energy? I don't know if it's energy. You just do what you got to do, it's interesting. I sat down with Brett Favre at the end of his career, and I had already kind of known this, but I wanted him to say it out loud because he had made a kind of a hint about it a couple of times. But when Brett went to retire, he and I did an interview, and it was, I don't know if it was the first time, but it was one of the few times that Brett had talked about it prior to full retirement. And I said, hey, where do you get the wherewithal to be this tough, to play this hard, to play this ferocious, and to play every day, and to have that level of energy? And he said, fear. And I said, what do you mean, fear? And he said, fear. He said, it's how you get your job in this business. And I didn't get it at first. And then he said, well, look how I got my job. And then it dawned on me, because Mikowski went down with the injury and Brett stepped in and never looked back. And Mikowski never got his job back. And I think that's part of it in this business, because the business has become so segregated and so corporate and so out of touch with people in this business of what it used to be. And now it's just a bunch of corporate machines trying to pre-program you and tell you what you're going to think and what you're going to do and how you're going to feel. And thank God I landed where I'm at. And between my company and Midwest Family Broadcasting, and they're big, but they're not so big that they're corporate. And it's great because they just kind of say, go do your thing. And if there's any problems, we'll let you know. And I've never been anybody to work for a company that tells you what to say or how to think. And I left the company that did. So I think fear, because there's always somebody smarter. There's always somebody younger. There's always somebody that's going to do more or going to be willing to do more. I think there's a lot of really intelligent people that have a voice. I think that there is a lot of really smart people that now have a voice. I think there's an art to doing this. You have to be able to present an idea. You have to be able to present a thought. There's still the theater of the mind. You have to be able to paint a picture and bring people into that picture. And I also think that what gets lost along the way is you have to figure out a way to pay for it. It's got to generate revenue. And the one thing that we've always been good at is not taking clients we don't want to work with. And when we do take a client, usually they're already a friend of ours. There's somebody that says, we want to take a chance on you. And I think loyalty, a friendship, a great working relationship, and understanding of your audience, of the people that are listening, and the people that you're presenting their product, their service, their bar, their restaurant, whatever. You have to understand what it is they do, and there's got to be a marriage there. But I think the biggest thing is fear. I could probably go with Favre on that. It's probably fear more than anything. That someday you're going to wake up and people are going to say, yeah, you're not in anymore, and we want to move on. And that, as you get older, that may happen. I mean, there could be a younger generation out there that doesn't want to hear these type of opinions or presented in this type of way. So I don't know. That's what kind of keeps me going. That's it. What else do we got? We got some good stuff tonight, man. What do we see here? Therese in La Crosse. Tyrese, a communication student, what advice would you give for somebody who wants to do what you do? I've been listening to you since I was a kid, and I've always loved the post-game show after Packers games. We would watch TV and then run and turn on the radio with my parents. Oh, man. Well, first and foremost, thanks for listening in La Crosse or paying attention to us in La Crosse. What advice would I have? The business has changed so much. First of all, I'd say get an internship somewhere. Get an internship. Get in anywhere you can. Write as much as you can. The written word, then the spoken word are so incredibly powerful and so relatable and so, how do I put it? Reachable. Don't be afraid. The best advice I ever had given to me was by a guy named Walt Mayer years ago from WKRC Channel 12 in Cincinnati, who said to me, don't be afraid. In the world of sports, okay, and the way he put it to me was, he said, if sports went away, if something happened and we quit playing sports, he said the sun would still come up, Wall Street would still open, people would still spend money, they'd get in their cars, they'd go to work, because what we do in the sports world, it's entertainment. Now, it has a lot of industries tied to it, but it's all bullshit. It's entertainment when you think about it. Now, if your business, if your livelihood relies upon sports, then it's your job. Say you work at the Fiserv, or you manage the properties of, a stadium or Camp Randall or, whatever. I mean, then it's different. But in the grand scheme of things, for the average people going to work for construction or nursing or lawyers, I mean, whatever it is you want to do, delivery drivers, mailmen. I mean, I can go on and on and on. We're the distraction from the reality. So don't ever be afraid to ask a question. Don't ever be afraid to have an opinion. Don't ever be afraid to call someone out, because in the grand scheme of things, it's all bullshit. And the people that take it so serious and the people that get into it so much, it's great because they're the hardcore listener and the hardcore viewer and the hardcore watcher and such. But when the athletes get so high on their horse, they tend to forget that it's entertainment. You're in the sport of entertainment. That's what you do. Now you're doing it in different ways, sacrificing your body if you're in football, and, different things with basketball, baseball. There's injuries and such that are related, but don't ever be afraid. So my first advice to you would be not to be afraid. My second piece of advice to you would be to get an internship. And my third piece of advice to you would be to try to learn everything from social media, video comprehension. The written word is powerful. I think I would try doing things. I used to go to Reds games when I was a kid and take a recorder with me, and I would do play-by-play in the stands by myself. I'd buy the dollar ticket, sit up top, keep my scorecard, and have a little microphone with one of those recorders where you had to push both buttons at the same time to hit record, and the cassette was in there, and I'd record the game, and I would do play-by-play. And because I just wanted to get better at it, I wanted to sound natural. So do what you love, you know? If you love social media, do social media. If you love Instagram videos, do Instagram videos. If you want to do what I do and be on the radio, then get an internship at a radio station. Learn how to produce a show. Learn how to take calls. Learn how to screen them. Learn how to write headlines and do updates. Sound natural. Too many people go, yeah, the Green Bay Packers, and don't sound like that. Nobody talks like that. Think to yourself when you speak, is this the way I would talk to my friends and sitting next to them? Because if it's not, then it's not you. So you got to be you. You got to be genuine. So, but that's the best advice I can give you, to be perfectly honest with you. What else do we got? Because this is good stuff tonight. Oh, here we go. You know what? I'll answer this. Trent, listening in Kimberly, says, I know you've been married a couple of times. Are you still friends with your exes? My ex is trying to be my buddy, but I just want her to go away for reasons that I won't go into or the details that I don't want to really give. That is Trent in Kimberly. We're getting kind of deep tonight, aren't we? Wow. Okay. I've been married before. One of my exes, don't ever care to see, ever. My other one, I was married to Judy for 12 years, I guess, or together, and we're still friends. As a matter of fact, Kristen, who I'm engaged to, so I'm not afraid to get married again. We're just waiting for kind of the right time because she's got kids that are still in school and all that kind of stuff. But Judy, and Kristen's friends with Judy, as a matter of fact. And when I had the dogs, I had gotten the dogs with Judy, so Judy would come over and watch the dogs. And when she takes a trip or travels, we'll go over and watch her cats and take care of her cats. So it's, and we were always kind of like better friends anyway. But I don't have advice. I'm the wrong guy to ask for that kind of advice, you know? My first wife, it was very brief, very short, and I haven't seen her since I left Cincinnati. Judy I was married to for quite some time. My next wife, I don't ever really want to see again. And, at some point, I'm sure Kristen and I will, let you all know that we went to some island somewhere and actually got married. But I don't have advice, man. It's a feeling. It's, how amicable is it? I'm the worst person. I mean, how do you deal with your exes? What am I, Cosmo? Shit, I don't know. Oh God. So anyway, that's the best thing I can tell you. All right. Dan in Beaver Dam says, if you're going to put money on Sunday's game, who would you bet on, the Packers or the Eagles? You know what? I think my cigar went out. I'm going to give you the honest answer because we're not going to bullshit here tonight, right? If I was going to put money on the game, I'd bet on the Eagles. And the reason why is this. There's 3 reasons, okay? 3 reasons. Come on, not lighting. Cohibas are good cigars, but they just don't stay lit all the time. And I keep it in a really good humidor, too. There we go. Okay, 3 reasons. 3 reasons. One is, obviously, it's very tough to play at Lincoln Financial Field. It is going to be a hell of a home field advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 2, I think the dynamic with Saquon Barkley and the passing game. Now, I don't know what the status is going to be. We'll have to wait for tomorrow on Jalen Hurts, and my opinion may change a little bit. But Saquon Barkley has been an incredible find for that team. And if you have the ability to run the ball, control the clock, you got a really good defense, and you got home field advantage, those 3 things, 4 things right there are kind of the reason why But my other reason would be I haven't seen the consistency out of Green Bay to be able to tell me, oh, yeah, they're ready to go. Now, they very well may, and I hope they do as a Packers fan. But they haven't played consistent complementary football, but maybe once or twice this year. So, and again, if I'm putting money on it, now where my heart is I want the Packers to win for a couple of reasons. One is I think as a Packers fan, your fandemonium is there. You want to see them go into Philadelphia and beat the Dirty Birds and, come back home and all that kind of stuff, right? But personally speaking, for what it is we do for a living, myself, Grant, Ebo, everybody on the network, it's bread and butter. I mean, the Packers are the biggest thing in the state of Wisconsin. Make no mistake about it. That's what everybody gloms onto. Now, there is a minority that may not give a damn about football or care about the Packers or whatever, but for the majority of the state of Wisconsin and Packers fans and Packers Nation, it's what people live for. And so when the Packers win, people come out in droves. It's great for our business. It'd be the same as if I owned a bar, same thing. So but if I had to put money on it, I would put money on the Eagles, to be honest with you. So, yes, the wagon wheel is in the basement. Thank you, Paul. Trying to see, there was a couple of people that had asked me. Oh, Chris said, would you ever be willing to get another dog? I know you miss Mickey and Elmo, and I miss my fur babies too. I would love to get another dog at some point. I travel so much, it's not fair to the dog, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss Mickey and Elmo. I walk up the stairs of the house, and I always look off to the right of the landing, and that's where Elmo used to lay and wait for me. And I miss him like crazy. I miss him and Mickey like crazy. I had both dogs cremated, and they sit in my living room, and I still talk to them. I still talk to them like they're here. I just do. I miss them like crazy. So, but I just don't have the capability to care for one for as much as I travel. It's not fair. It's not fair to the dog. So, but I would love to get another dog eventually. Absolutely. Wyatt Madison says, that's the sex talk show. What was the weirdest call you ever got from a caller? You want the truth? Okay. The weirdest call I ever got. There was a caller that when I screened the call, he sounded as if he was in distress. He's like, So I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, I got a problem. So him and his partner had tried inserting something, a fish, and it got stuck. And they were both embarrassed. He was embarrassed. And he had called the doctor to want advice how to remove the fish. And at this point in time, the doctor is very serious. She is very clinical. She is very composed. Me, I got to admit, right? I'm in my late 20s, maybe 30. I'm laughing my ass off, right? I wish I had a tape of this. I really do. I wish I had a tape of this. Because she says to him, do you need us to call an ambulance? And you hear this crash. And the crash is me falling off the high roller bar stool chair that we had in the studio. I was laughing so hard. And the answer to the question of, do you need to call an ambulance? I said yes, because I can't breathe, because I was laughing so hard. So that was the weirdest call we ever got. And by the way, that story, that is the very small, condensed Cliff Notes version of that story because it went on for a while. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to do this, you don't do a real fish. You start off with a goldfish, something that you can flex up on and just crack and fart out. But no, you don't do a real fish. So apparently the gills opened up when they tried to remove it. Anyway, but that was the weirdest call I ever got. So, but you want honesty, right? That's what this is tonight. That's what this is. So there you have it. We got a couple more because I was only going to do about 20 minutes, but we've gone on for a while tonight. So what else do we have? You got anything else? I want to get to some people over. You know what? I forgot to take the sign down. Yeah, the sign over here. My buddy got me. My buddy Scotty out of Cincinnati got me that. He got me that. There's another sign over there that says, if you hear language that offends you, please let us know because we always need a good laugh. And then he's got another sign for me that goes to the tiki bar that's got Sasquatch with his junk out. So he's a guy that gets me those signs. So there it is. Real quick, what else do we have here? Oh, anything else? Anything on the text line? This is out of the 608 that says, do you think Jalen Hurts being in a concussion protocol and not throwing live in a game for 3 weeks gives the Packers a little bit of an edge? He hasn't been cleared yet. To me, that would be concerning as an Eagles fan. Yeah, it gives the Packers a little bit of an edge. Sure, absolutely, because he hasn't been able to really practice heavily with the team. So we'll see what happens. But tomorrow's going to be a telltale sign. Is he out there practicing with his team? Out of the 414, Dale in Oak Creek, do you think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year? Yes or no? No. If I had to put money on it, I'd say no. Could they? Yeah, they could go on a run. You got to be good. You got to be hot. You got to get healthy, and you got to be lucky. Now, Christian Watson going down certainly hurts them, but the rest of all of those things could certainly come into play. So to answer your question, Dale and Oak Creek, yeah, they could do it, but I would say out of all the teams that are right now in the postseason, they're probably lower on the totem pole than higher on the totem pole, to be perfectly honest with you. Give me another good one. Bryce said, could you ever have Brett Favre on your show? You know what? We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. Absolutely. We'll put a call in and I'll see if I can't get Brett to join us at some point. Yeah. Greg says, late to the show. It's been 5 years since Neil Peart passed away. Sorry if this was already mentioned. Neil Peart, fantastic drummer, man. I loved Rush. Always do. Always have. Geddy Lee's got such an incredibly unique voice as a singer, but there was just something about the music that they put out at that time, specifically the song Limelight. If you ever listen to people always ask me, why Limelight? Why do I use Limelight in the show? Do you ever listen to the words? Go listen to it and read the words. It's all about being on a stage and what is real isn't real. And that's what I mean. When we do what we do and we're sitting here talking and we're spewing our stuff and, you're kind of an actor on a stage, which is why I try to be honest about things. But what we're discussing is the world of entertainment. And I know that might shatter a few glasses, so to speak, but we're all going to wake up tomorrow. We're all going to go to work. We've all survived off seasons with the Packers not winning a Super Bowl and things happening. But what we do is give you a distraction from the everyday, which is the reason I don't get political. At least I try not to. Try not to get political and try not to get too deep into all the other the bullshit that surrounds us on a daily basis, Albert says, Brett Favre, my favorite quarterback. I have all his NFL jerseys. There you go. A lot of people still love Brett. That's it. That's it. Great questions tonight. Kudos to you, man. Great questions tonight. Cheers to you. If you got a beverage, raise it. I'm drinking Cider Boys tonight. I love those things. And I want to say thanks to everybody for checking in. This was just kind of a cool night. Whether you're on X or on, the social media side of things or YouTube or whatever, it's great. I love it. I love doing these kind of things. Maybe we should do them a little more often, Jeff says, I listen to the post game every week, listen to the airing of the grievances, best 2 hours of game day. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. So there you go. Odd fact, Neil Peart said that Karen Carpenter was one of the best drummers he'd ever heard. Karen Carpenter was a hell of a drummer. Great singer. We've only just begun, right? But great singer. But yeah, really good drummer too. Her and her brother wrote a lot of the music and he was the keyboard player, but great singer. Yeah. And she ended up dying of the complications from anorexia, as a matter of fact. So, and you think I'm just a sports guy, right? All right. That's going to do it. So unless you got some kind of scintillating question, you're going to hit me up in the live stream with here in just a second. Bourbon, whiskey, best 3 to buy. Best 3 to buy. I love Weller's. Weller's is good. Angel's Envy is such a smooth drink. Angel's Envy and Eagle Rare, such a smooth drink. Okay. Everybody likes Blanton's. Everybody likes some of the fashionable stuff, Buffalo Trace and things like that. Chicken Cock is really good. There's a Kentucky Vintage. It's little known. Kentucky Vintage. If by chance you ever get in, I talk about Jesse James Dupree from the band Jackal, right? Jesse has got a bourbon and a whiskey out. And you can find the normal bourbons and whiskeys and the Devil's Cut and the Devil's Devil and all that kind of stuff. You can find that everywhere. But if you ever get the special level of the bourbon, the cask strength and the bourbon cask strength, hold on a second. I got a picture of it. Okay, hold on. I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. Hold on. This is live stuff, man. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. All right. So this stuff right here, and this is what I love to do to the people that drink bourbon, like good friends of mine, and they're like, oh, I'm such a bourbon enthusiast. So I'll pour it in a glass and I'll say, try this. And they'll be like, oh my God, this is really good. And I can taste this. And I've got the tannins of this. And I've got this oak. And it's so this is it right there. It's called Jesse James Barrel Strength Tennessee Whiskey. And this is unbelievably, now if you've got that kind of taste and flavor, it's sweet, it's unbelievably flavorful, and it's not overwhelmingly harsh for having a high level of cask strength. So I love it. And it's about $65 a bottle if you can find it. It's not everywhere, but I love it. So there you go. So that's it. Great stuff. Thanks to all of you for paying attention. This has been a lot of fun. I certainly appreciate it. We'll do this again. If you want to do it again, just let me know, and then maybe we'll put something together in a couple of weeks or something like that. Reminder, though, follow us on all the social media platforms, because in less than 4 weeks, we're going to be heading down to New Orleans, and we're going to do a lot of social media down there this year. It's going to be fun. Obviously, the tragedy that happened on Bourbon Street, we'll go there and pay a little homage and such to it, but to everything that went on down there, and a little bit of solemnness. But we are looking forward to bringing you all the fun and the pageantry of Super Bowl 59 for sure. So great stuff. All right. We'll definitely do this again. Thanks to everybody for paying attention. And thanks for all the great questions. We certainly appreciate it.